Hi everybody, thank you for joining us. I'm just going to give it a minute, just in case there are any that are like me and are always a couple of minutes late for these sorts of events, and then we'll make a start. Okay, so we're going to make a start, if that's all right, just to draw your attention before we get going to the fact that this is going to be recorded and will be transcribed, just so that we can capture all of the comments and questions. So do be aware of that, and I hope that if there's any issues with that, please put them in the chat. But I hope that you were aware that that was going to happen. We're going to start with an introduction from myself in a sec, but just a little bit of housekeeping. I have got the function to be able to mute you all, so if I hear any noises, I can do that. So when we get to the Q&A at the end, please make sure that you remember to unmute yourself, or it will just be the usual sort of cry of unmute, or you're not able to be heard. So grateful if people could also, as we go along, put any questions that they think of as we talk into the chat function. There will be a Q&A at the end, as I said. I will invite people to raise their hands and communicate their questions directly, but I will also be looking into the chat. If people are uncomfortable with that or feel that they would rather their question was read out, I can also do that from the chat as well. Okay, so I'm Jo Hopkins, and I'm the Director of the Adverse Childhood Experiences Support Hub here in Wales. I've actually got a broader role in Public Health Wales, but it's an incredibly long title. So for the purposes of today, all you need to worry about is that this is my role with the Adverse Childhood Experiences Support Hub. I'm delighted that we're able to welcome a number of fantastic speakers here to present with us today. So we've got Matthew Morgan, who is our Further Education Sector Lead for the ACE Support Hub. We've also got Maxine Thomas from Pembrokeshire College, who's the Designated Safeguarding Lead. Great to have Maxine with us because she brings a wealth of experience from being a pilot of this approach. So brilliant to hear from you, Maxine. We've also got Lizzie Stevens, Head of Inclusion from Coleg Cambria. Hi, Lizzie. And Carl Hickling, a last minute but very welcome addition from Coleg Gwent, standing in for a colleague who's the Wellbeing Officer. And we'll be really excited to hear from both of you as our trailblazer colleges about how it's been to implement the toolkit and some of the resources we're going to hear about. So really inspire us really to think about how this can be taken forward further. We've also got Sian Dorrington, who's joining us from Welsh Government, who will be able to talk us through the playlist resources, so you'll get a real sense of what's available and what's being developed. And very welcome to Ian Dixon from Estin, who's an HMI for the post-16 sector, and he will be joining us for the Q&A session as well, so that we've got a really rich, hopefully, conversation and opportunity for you to ask questions of all of us. So great, fantastic, thank you to you all. So I just thought I'd open very quickly with a little bit of context setting around this work from my perspective as Director of the Hub. So one of the kind of key aspects really of our work over the last 18 months at least has been to think about how we move from an understanding of what adverse childhood experiences are. And I think we're at a place now where we think we are actually getting to really get to grips with that. But actually then moving forward from that understanding to thinking about, well, what is it then that we need to do differently? What is it that we need to put into practice that will really make a difference to people's lives? Because it's great that we all know what adverse childhood experiences are, but it doesn't make any difference to anyone if we don't then know what we need to do to prevent, to mitigate and to support people who experience not only in childhood, but also through the whole life course. Because as we know, trauma in childhood can have an impact right the way through adulthood. So it's been really important to try and think now about what those structural resources, what we can provide to assist organisations, sectors, and even multifunctional sectors to really think about what this means for them. So the Trace Toolkit was developed as a structure and a framework to take this forward. I'm absolutely delighted, as I said, that the first sector to take this on wholesale was further education. And I think one of the things that we felt was really important here was that we'd done a number of years of work with schools across Wales, trying to understand what it means for primary and secondary schools to be trauma informed in practice. And we're working with higher education to think about what it means for young adults and learners who go into that world of university, away from home, and trying to grapple with life. And I think one of the things that we're really keen... Oh, could you go on mute, please? Thank you. One of the things we were really keen to ensure is that we don't see education as separate entities. We see it as part of the experience of most children and young people into adulthood, and adult learners, and people who fall in and out of education at various stages, so that it becomes somewhere that people don't fall through the cracks. So you are the trailblazers in further education, not only in terms of making sure we have that continuum, but also in helping us to test, evaluate and understand whether our Trace Toolkit is something that is fit for purpose, but also where we can continually learn and improve our resources to support services and people across Wales. So today we'll get an overview in a minute from Matthew about what's been going on in terms of our engagement with further education so far. We'll also see a demonstration of the playlist, so you get a real sense of what these resources are. And we'll hear, as I said, from our pioneers and trailblazers that really gives us a sense of what it's like on the ground. And I think one of the things I really want to stress about this webinar is that although we are here to celebrate the launch of this suite of resources, which has been a huge amount of work, both by Matthew and by Kelly, who used to be in the hub, and a number of people around that have joined us today. I mean, this is not something that's happened by magic, but we also want to use this opportunity today to really sell, I guess, the kind of the impact and the importance of us taking this approach forward wider than our trailblazer colleges, and invite colleges across Wales to join us on this journey to take forward the toolkit and to understand the impact and the difference it can make, not only to the learners that you are supporting, but to the staff, the community, and everybody involved in the college itself. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you enjoy the session and you get a lot from it. And I'll be back at the end to compare the Q&A. So don't forget, questions in the chat if you think of stuff as we go along. If you do forget to mute yourself, I will either shout mute or mute you myself. And then I look forward to speaking to you again towards the end. So Matthew, over to you. Thank you.
Diolch, Jo. Prynawn da croeso, diolch yn fawr o pawb. Good afternoon and welcome, and thank you for all attending today's webinar. I'd just like to start by saying really how proud and excited I've been in playing a small part in the co-creation of the playlist. I would also like to say a huge thank you to everyone across the FE sector, Welsh Government and the Support Hub for their help and support. I think everyone's been really passionate about their work, really supportive to me and especially to each other, which has been lovely to see. And last but not least, been very patient with me when their time has been so valuable and you know, within their busy schedules on a day-to-day basis. A special mention to the colleges who we'll hear from shortly and who are our trailblazer colleges, which is obviously Coleg Cambria and Coleg Gwent. Thank you to Pembrokeshire College for piloting our Trace Toolkit at the beginning of the year, as well as Coleg Cigar, who have allowed us to use some of the case studies to create short, informative video clips that highlight wonderfully how a trauma and ACE-aware approach can have such a profound impact on someone's well-being and development. To offer some context of the ACE Support Hub, it was created in March 2017, and after there was an increase in the level of interest around ACEs, subsequently Welsh Government engaged with research that identified the prevalence of ACEs in Wales. The ACE Support Hub is directly funded by the Welsh Government, and the work undertaken helps to support large organisational and community changes with dealing with ACEs. The work undertaken will help us to make Wales a world leader in preventing, mitigating and tackling ACEs and their significant impact. The ACE Support Hub has already engaged with education in Wales and at primary and secondary levels, so just felt that a natural progression would be to engage with the FE sector. This would encourage a natural flowing continuous across the education sector in Wales. The body of work complements the content of the SDN reports of Knowing Your Children, Supporting Pupils with Adverse Childhood Experiences in January 2020, and more recently, the Support for Learners with Mental Health and Emotional Wellbeing in March 2021. As you may be aware, my secondment started in August 2020, and one of my first duties was to assist Kelly McFadden to assemble an expert reference panel. Now, the panel consists of strategically placed college staff who are positioned within their institutions to support the design and delivery of a bespoke training package specifically for the FE sector. Further to the assembly of the expert reference panel, we also look to introduce and have subsequently created a community of practice group that is made up primarily of front-facing staff who have high levels of skill within the domain of trauma and ACE-aware practices. Both groups meet monthly to share updates and positive practices, as well as working through any barriers or issues they may have. The groups have successfully used critical friend sessions along the way, as well as action learning techniques to work through aspects of their journey. Engagement across the sector is excellent, and I feel that as more and more colleges embark on their commitment to becoming a trauma and ACE informed, that the engagement will increase even further. Never has ever been such an important time to ensure we do all we can to support our colleagues as well as our learners, particularly when we consider the last 18 months or so and the shared experiences of COVID-19. During the project, we wanted the sector's input on a manner of things, and we piloted a number of initiatives. We were very grateful for Coleg Cambria and Pembroke College as they worked through the TRACE Toolkit and created action plans which they can now use to drive the work forward. When the pilot ended, we celebrated the findings by holding a webinar that some of you may have attended, and it looked at the processes in more depth. This is still available now via our website and on YouTube if anybody cares to look at it. As I've mentioned, we've enjoyed a strong professional bond and passion for driving this project forward, and during this time we have held training development workshops that have highlighted the existing resources that were available in other areas of education, and then used critical friend feedback and evaluations to tailor the co-produced playlist that we're going to see today and ensure it is bespoke to the needs of the sector. A little earlier, I mentioned how delighted I was to get Coleg Agar support by allowing us the opportunity to utilise some of their wellbeing officers' case studies to highlight and emphasise how important a trauma-informed approach can be, and also how powerful this approach can be for our learners in being that one consistent adult who offers a safe and trustworthy and respectful environment to encourage personal growth. I'd like to now show you one of these videos that I hope you'll agree does exactly that.
It took a lot for me to talk about what was happening at home and how I was feeling. I felt like I was stuck in this endless cycle. It was a really dark place. At college, I found that I couldn't concentrate in class, which meant I couldn't finish parts of my course. I was falling behind. I started to think, what's the point? I've been caring for my mum since I was about 10 years old. There's also a lot of abuse that happens between my parents. It all gets a bit too much for me sometimes. I was scared of going home some days, and that the fear and anxiety would get to a point where I couldn't control it. I couldn't escape the situation, because my mum relied on me so much. As a way of coping, I started to self-harm. It made me feel in control, but I wasn't at all. The college stepped in and started to give me mentoring sessions. It took a few chats for me to really open up about what was going on, but once I did, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I really trusted them, and that was a huge thing for me. I've had so much support. I can manage my emotions now, and having someone to talk to gives me that chance to address how I'm feeling. I'll be starting a new course shortly, and I feel like I'm in a good place to do well in whatever I want to do.
I'd just like to thank once again the performing arts students at Coleg Agar, who I think you agree have respectfully narrated and acted within these short films. Over the last 6 months, excuse me, I've been engaging with and supporting our two Trailblazer colleges within their journey. As part of the project, my role is extended to the opportunity to enlist 2 colleges to trailblaze the process. We therefore emailed out colleges and openly invited them to write an expression of interest, which outlined the commitment to the process and highlighted the infrastructure to support the project along the way. We received 5 incredibly strong and professionally written expressions of interest, and the process of shortlisting was a very tough one. We were delighted with all 5 as they evidence how passionate and committed everyone is in becoming a trauma and ACE aware sector. We chose 2 colleges whose passion and commitment has not diminished in the slightest, even now at this time of the year when how busy they are at the start of the new academic year. And we're currently working alongside Coleg Gwent and Coleg Cambria. The work has seen the importance of the TRACE toolkit and how the baseline self-assessment of that institution supports the embedding of this work into college policies. This has also allowed them to create an action plan which has seen them undertake training for key staff, and thanks to them undertaking the phase 1 and phase 2 training of the process, they are now able to disseminate the training across the multi-campus sites to a range of staff to make this the whole college approach. The work and findings is being supported by critical friend sessions within the expert reference and community of practice meetings. Before I hand you over to Sian Dorrington, who has supported the Hub and the Welsh Government in creating this amazing resource, I would like to show you another one of our powerful short clips that highlight the importance of a trauma and ACE-informed practice, being that one consistent, supportive adult.
Rugby has always been an outlet for me. It takes my mind off of things that are constantly going round and round in my head. It's something that I'm really good at. And growing up, I was never told that I was good at anything. All I wanted to do was play rugby. Off the pitch, it was a completely different story. In class, I just didn't want to be there. I always had other stuff in my mind, and I hated being talked to like a child. I always felt the teachers were disrespecting me, so in my mind, why should I show them respect back? I started not showing up to classes. I couldn't focus and didn't see the point. I couldn't understand the work. I was in danger of not achieving my qualifications, and the college gave me a written warning about my behaviour. The college support intervened and tried to work out why I was acting the way I was. I wasn't keen at first, but the more sessions I had, the more I opened up. They talked to me like an adult, which really helped and showed me to understand the work. My literacy and numeracy has improved a lot, and they've helped me manage my time and actually show up. I really respected the time they put into helping me. I'm now doing much better on the course, and it's great to know that I have someone who I can rely on to help me when I'm struggling with the work, or if I'm feeling angry or frustrated. I'm so glad that I can carry on playing rugby whilst getting an academic qualification. I feel that there could be possibilities outside of rugby now.
Diolch am wrando. Thank you for listening. I will now hand you back over to Jo.
Thanks very much, Matt. So I think now we are going to hear from Sian. Is that right? Oh no, we're not. We're going to hear from Maxine. Sorry, Maxine. I've jumped the gun.
Sian. No,
Where's
Jo.
Sian?
Sian, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay, right. We are going to hear from Sian. Thank you. Over to you, Sian.
Hi everyone, I'm from Welsh Government. I work with Karen, who most of you have probably seen before, and I've worked with Matt and Kelly and Karen to put this playlist together that I'll just take you through now. So if I share mine. Here we go. So hopefully everyone can see this. This is the Hub main page when you get in there. At the moment I'm logged in, and that's why I've got lots of tabs up, but you should be able to see this when you go into Hub. As it's a public resource, you don't need to be logged in to access it. I think that's quite important to let you know this is a public resource that anyone on Hub can have access to. So I'll just show you how to find it quickly. You click on this resources button here, and then the term I'd write in is trauma. And as you can see, the ACEs logo comes up, and then this one here is our playlist. And as you can see, actually, it already has 381 views on Hub for this resource. So that's a really, really good achievement. So I'm glad that people are looking at it. So I'm going to launch the playlist now and take you through it, showing you how we came to have it look like this. I know a few of you are working on playlists as part of your mental health funding as well. And this is a really good example of a well put together playlist. So this was our
We had a lot with hands supporting, and it is about supporting people. So the first thing that we did here is the front. We've got a bit of background here, so if you do want to go through it, and it doesn't like me today. Sorry, here we go. If you do want to go through it and go back to a specific page, you can just go to that page from the contents page. Just thought I'd show you that quickly. The first thing that we've got here is a little bit of background about the project, what the project objectives were, and as you can see here, there's a hyperlink at the bottom to the research reports, and this takes you to another hub collection, and you can go through then the research reports here. You can launch them from the resource card, and it will take you to the website that's hosted on. My internet's being a bit slow, so I'll come back to that, but that will take you to those resources. Again, the images are really, we've wanted to make it a positive feel. I think was something that was really important to us. We had a little bit here about what it means to be trace informed, and then the specific ACEs further education project. A little bit about the collaboration with the sector that Matt's already spoken about, and then we go on to what's been produced. So this is where the toolkit comes into play, and again, when I go through these now, we have these links here. So this is a developing skills and knowledge one, so this is the background. So there's some videos here about the ACEs, etc., the training, and all of that. Are there any of these that you'd like me to open specifically? Or are you happy to sort of go through those? I can open the, see if I can open this. And then you can download these from here, or you can read them on the website. Again, you might want to Zoom if you're reading them yourself, but you can download them from there, and it's a really good place to have it housed, and you all can always go back to it. They will be there, and if it's updated, because it's a link, it will pull through any updates that you have, so that's really useful. So that was the developing skills and knowledge. As you can see here, there's a list of everything that you will find on that collection, and it allows you to select the resources that you need at that time. The next slide was about communicating the case for change. This is talking to senior leaders. Again, it's another collection here. So this has the short guide. It has a presentation for engaging with senior leaders. So some really helpful resources for you to take away and possibly apply in your own institutions. So this is communicating the case for change. And then we've got the Trace Informed Organisations Toolkit. Again, this is another resource collection. It's somewhere that you can easily house stuff, easily read to and come back to. I've really enjoyed putting this together with Matt. We did quite a few, we took a lot of time over it to make sure that it was really user-friendly, I hope, and that it told that story that is so important to everyone. So here you can find the self-assessment tool, the guidance, and then there's another short guide there as well. And again, you can read them in here and keep them in here, or you can download them. It's completely up to you and your needs. And then we have got the videos in here as well. So those are things that we can watch. My internet's a bit slow up here in mid Wales at the moment, so I'm not sure if it's got something to do with the weather, but they are in there that you can watch them. I'm not going to play them now because Matt's gone through them, but we've got them here, and they were a really good addition to this playlist to really bring it together and bring some real life situations and case studies into it. And I think that really elevates it then. And then we've got a little bit about the project evaluation, from what was taken from that, etc. And then at the end, we've got the next steps, which is a bit more about what you're going to hear about today, the Trailblazer colleges and implementing it then. This playlist has been great to put together. I hope you all think it looks good and is user-friendly and everything, and that is easily accessible to everyone. Again, you don't need your hub login to use it, you don't need your hub login to view it. You can just go onto hub and find it, and that all the resources that were created as part of it will be there. And it is editable, and it is something that we can update as new information comes through. And I would also like to say it is in Welsh and in English, and so all of the resources are all in Welsh and English as well. So yeah, if there's any questions about the playlist, put them in the chat bar and I can respond to those as well. But thank you so much to everyone at the ACE Support Hub and who've worked really hard on this. It really shows when it's come together now, and I hope that you all find it useful. And if there's any questions about it or using Hub in general, please just send me an email and I'll try and point you in the right direction.
Fantastic, thank you, Sian. And that's the first time I've seen it actually in terms of how it looks if you access it from a hub point of view. So as Lizzie's put in the chat, really fantastic. Thank you for all your work as well in putting that together. So we'd love to hear from you if you have comments immediately on the playlist, or if you start to use it, and you know, how does it feel for you? What are the things that work really well, and perhaps what are the things that we could have a look at. So please make sure you do feedback as you start to use it. So I'm now going to turn to Maxine, hopefully having frightened her, thinking that I changed the order earlier. So welcome to Maxine. Thank you so much for joining us. And Maxine's, as I said, from Pembrokeshire College, but also well, you're a pioneer, Maxine. Your college is a pioneer. So we really use Maxine's and her colleagues' experience in developing these resources and our whole approach, which is now being taken forward by the Trailblazers. So over to you, Maxine, and looking forward to hear about your experience.
Thank you, Joanne. Sorry, I should have checked this earlier. Are you taking the slides forward, just so I'm clear?
Matthew will do that for you, Maxine.
That's great. Thank you, Matthew. We can move on. Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share the journey, really, to becoming a trace-informed institution. And I think with all things, it is absolutely about sort of preparation. And I think one of the things in relation to the journey to becoming a trace-informed institution is very much around actually realising what you're already doing. So the preparation is really, really key here. As we've heard about the toolkit, that baseline assessment, and in doing that, it's about being really honest with ourselves, looking at where we are, and then forming sort of the action plan, and then the implementation of that. And as we have a look at that going forward, then as we're doing that monitoring, evaluation and review, but actually recognising what we are probably all doing as colleges, and not necessarily seeing this as coming into this agenda. Thank you, Matthew. And I think as we look at the toolkit itself, and we look across the 6 strands of it, and starting, as we know, with that all important sort of governance, leadership and organisational culture. And I think, you know, once we get that buy-in, and I think there is huge commitment already across the colleges for this, and we recognise, just sort of strip that back and recognise what we're already doing in this regard. So I think it's fair to say that all of us, and again through the support of Welsh Government and the Mental Health Project, our health and wellbeing policies and strategies, our inclusion in sort of safeguarding practice and making it everyone's business, which we absolutely do. And this forms part of that. It's having that sort of leadership within the senior management team, and enforcing that sort of in all our practices. So as we review things, and we build it into absolutely everything that we are doing, and also fitting it into our wider commitments as a lead partner agency with all of our safeguarding boards, etc., and also the huge agenda that is around inclusion at the moment and through our training plans. Then our policies and procedures, which again, we have many of those, but again, this is nothing new. It's there and it's inbuilt within all of those policies. So as we've mentioned, our health and wellbeing strategy, our safeguarding policy, our admissions policy, our inclusion policy, equality and diversity, and also very much around our sort of fitness to study, our disciplinary policies, our tutorials. It really does inform all of that work. And I think once we start to think, well, actually, this isn't about developing something new. It is about what are we already doing? Are we perhaps recognising enough the trauma-informed work that we are doing, and then making sure that is then reflected in our existing policies, practices, and procedures. And it's all about making sure it's included in our mission and in our vision, and through our working practice with other multi-agencies, that they can absolutely see that this is coming through. And then, you know, we've seen from Sian this afternoon in terms of workforce training and support, the excellent resources that are there now on Hub to be used within the colleges. And we've also got Matthew's good officers as well to come out and to help and support us in that regard. And it is just as we started from these baselines with safeguarding all of those years ago, making that training mandatory for all staff, and really sort of, you know, whenever we do that training or refresher training, coming back to this as well as the sort of trauma-informed practice and work. And again, through the mental health projects, the mental health first aid, again, all of this all sort of interlinks together. And again, then through our briefings with faculties, with course teams, and then sort of taking it again through with our learners and having that conversation. So that training and that support is absolutely critical as well. And it then leads back to changing that organisational culture and the physical environment of the college. Where are we locating services? And again, I think all of the colleges now very much have their learner support hubs. They have their sort of Aspire, their sort of training protocols and training programs, and those developments of sort of wellbeing services for both staff and learners, which are totally recognised. And also the flexibility within our policies, within our progression, within our transition arrangements, all of those things are absolutely critical to this. And then actually designing our services and delivery around this. So making sure that we are reflective in our practice and making sure that this is very much at the centre of all we do. And it's not about reinventing the wheel, it's about or saying this is something right we absolutely, you know, start from scratch with. Because when we reflect, when we do the self-assessment, then we know that actually we're already doing this. It's just recognising it and perhaps sort of tweaking it in those regards. And that is absolutely the way forward. And I think all of our services that are there for learners are person-centred. They build on signs of safety. They build on the right help at the right time. They are involving parents and recognition of parents and the transition arrangements that are now there, and also the excellent work that we know happens with multi-agencies. And it's about bringing all of that together and just recognising that. And then finally, as we monitor and evaluate, making sure that we are using this within our internal audits. We have Ian here from Eston today, and I think we're all very you know, interested to hear from Ian as well as to how Eston will be looking at this in the new inspection framework, how we review internally, how we review as we do practice reviews for both children and adults, and how we continue to learn lessons and implement those actions, and really owning the toolkit and moving it forward, so we can, without any shadow of a doubt, say that we are trauma-informed colleges. Thank you, Matt. And ultimately, what I would hope that it would look like at the end is that across the colleges, we are able to map that right help at the right time and take together all of the services that we are all so proud of and that support our learners, and very much then take this and agenda into it, that right help at the right time that can work and inform all of our practice with our trauma-informed students. Thank you, Matt. And I think that very nicely takes us to Lizzie.
Fantastic, thank you so much, Maxine. And I really like that slide you've just shown there, which really illustrates, doesn't it, the breadth and the scale of what this can achieve across all policies, procedures, etc. So thank you so much for that. So Lizzie, welcome to you. We're now going to hear about the experience of College Cambria as a trailblazer college. I can't even say it, trailblazer college. So Lizzie, over to you.
Oh, thanks, Jo. Hi everyone. It's good to be here. And I was just thinking then, this stuff should come with some sort of health warning, because genuinely, once you start on this journey, you get really hooked into it. You start to see what an impact it has, and you know, you just get absolutely a great sense of belief in this is a real, it's a missing gap, a gap that's been missing for some time, and something that is as you implement it, it makes that difference. So it's very exciting stuff. So yeah, just a very brief background as how we sort of got here. We started looking some time ago at sort of trauma-informed approaches, ACEs, and attachment disorders, because we recognised it was a big area of need, not just for our students, but also for our staff as well. So we got some backing from Welsh Government, and I think it was Karen who suggested and recognised that we would be better working alongside the ACEs support hub, because she saw that the projects we were doing were very aligned, and it was probably the best thing that could ever have happened, because becoming part of that made all the difference. It meant that we weren't just a college knocking on closed doors. Actually, we became part of something that was much, much bigger, much more integrated, and something that was holistic as well. So looking at the sector as a whole. So it was a big move, and it gave us the impetus in which to go on this journey. So as Maxine rightly said, it's important to get your support. We're very lucky at College Cambria. Our senior leadership team are very committed to inclusion, and could identify straight away the benefits of this approach. So, but without that, you know, it's difficult. It would be nigh on impossible. We then took action, and I've put on the slide there about the colleges, the two Trailblazer colleges, looked at things slightly differently, and that's really good. I think it's really important in a pilot, but also it's really good because we can see how each of us, the mistakes we made and the different approaches we took, and you can learn from that. But as Maxine did, we completed the toolkit. We were honest as well, and we were robust, and you have to be robust, because otherwise you're not going to be informed. From that, we were able to complete an action plan. And this was where Sean and I had a great shock. Sorry, I should have explained. Sean's also here from College Cambria. He's my colleague, and he's really involved in this project. But we had a big shock when we completed the toolkit and we started action planning. We realised that actually it wouldn't be a 6-month project, and it wasn't actually going to be a year project. We're actually talking a long time. This is a cultural change, and we started to realise that this is something that is going to take a long time to become part of what we completely normally do, and not just in our college, not just across the sector, but as a wider community, as a country as a whole. It's you know, it takes time to implement these changes. So we split our action plan up into 3 phases. The first phase that we identified was the importance of awareness raising and getting people on side. As I said, as colleges, we took a different approach. Our approach, we took our 13 key people, so these are level 7 specialists, and we commissioned a PG cert in adolescent trauma and attachment. And that gave them the sort of background knowledge we felt to be able to take the resources from the ACES Hub and be able to train others. But we approached it from a core group of people and then going out across the college and informing, raising awareness, training and everything. Whereas I think Gwent took key people from each different area of the college and brought them, if you like, from outside, bringing it in. So it's an interesting approach, and it's going to be really interesting to see whether there's a difference in impact. So yeah, so our first phase is all about training, and we've made a start on that. So Sean, over to you to have a little chat about the training.
Thank you, Lizzie, and yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. So as Lizzie just said then, myself and the colleagues, we all started on the level 7 PG cert, and essentially where we could, we implemented our knowledge into the expert reference panel and community practice to develop some of the train the trainer with Matthew, which was fantastic. And as Lizzie just said then, informed by the toolkit and the phased approach that we sort of designed and developed, we also designed and developed our own phased approach to the training too. So we kind of grouped these down into different people, into different groups. And I know on the previous slide that Lizzie had a pyramid of training. So within that, we sort of felt there was fundamental information for certain people, and this maybe branch off and get a bit more specialist and bespoke, depending on where people worked in the college. But essentially, we have all taken the train the trainer with Matthew and used and utilised all these resources, which have been fantastic. And we've started training, and we aim to train around 150 sort of frontline staff. And we are well on our way to that, and we're working hard to make sure it's rolled out effectively. As you can see, we've kind of incorporated our own training plan, our own sort of approach to this. And again, it'll be interesting to see the differences and similarities in approaches across different colleges. But yeah, effectively, we are trying to roll this out to as many different groups of people. So everyone who encounters and experiences the college, regardless if they're learner, if they're staff, if they're an external partner or a visitor, will all be encompassed within a trauma-informed setting and a Trailblazer college. We have incorporated some of our own training in this, which has also been developed in collaboration with Welsh Government and funding under mental health. But yeah, we're really passionate about the training, and it's going really, really well so far. So thank you very much. I will pass you back over to Lizzie now for the next slide. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. So what's next for us? Well, obviously, Sean just said about the training and development. We need to get everybody, every single person within the organisation, with an understanding and an awareness of what this actually means. Once we've got that, then we'll start to put together a statement of intent. And that's not something we're going to give to every member of the college. It's actually something we're going to create together with our learners, with our staff across the board, so that everybody is bought into it, everybody believes in it. And that will be our statement. Once we've got that, then we put on our trauma-informed glasses, and we're going to start to really, really look at all of our policies, procedures and everything through that trauma-informed lens, and make sure that everything that we're being supportive, that we're being kind, that actually we're working in a way which is going to get the best out of everybody. And finally, and most importantly, is about our sustainability. One thing we've said all along, and I think all of you, who have been involved in the project, we've all said we don't want this to be a flash in the pan. We don't want it to be something that when the project finishes, it just goes on the shelf. This is important stuff. Trust me when I say that we are really seeing a difference already. 154 key frontline workers are trained now, and we are seeing the difference. We're seeing a different approach in the classroom. We're seeing different approaches outside the classroom. We're seeing the approaches that they're taking with colleagues and with each other. And it is making a difference. You can feel the difference. It's palatable. So we don't want this just to disappear. So we need to support you guys in your implementation. We're only a little step ahead, and you'll have your own ideas as well anyway, but we want to support you. But we also need to look at a way in which we can make this so that it's fully embedded across the sector and the wider communities. So how are we going to standardise it? How are we going to know when we're completely trauma informed, and how are we going to make it so that it's not a postcode lottery, that different people have different standards? So that's something that we need to really to look at and nail, so that we, like Maxine said, so that we all become fully trauma informed. So exciting stuff. Thank you, Jo.
Thank you, Lizzie. And Lizzie did warn me that this was going to be a from the heart type presentation. So I'm delighted that that was, Lizzie. So brilliant. Thanks. I think we're all feeling inspired. So
that's my way of saying it won't be very prepared.
No, it was perfect. Thank you. That's exactly what we needed. So last but not least, Carl. Carl's, as I said, joining us last minute, but very welcome to talk about colleague Gwent's experience. So Carl, over to you.
Oh, thanks. Good to see you, everybody, and thanks for having me. Just picking up on something Lizzie said there about the different approaches we have between the two trailblazing colleges. That's so right, and it just shows that with this being trauma informed and trauma aware, it does fit into our locality and our the way our colleges work. And it like she said, I think Maxine said, it's not like an adding to, but an adding on, sorry, but an adding to what we're doing. So I'm really excited that we're actually having similar experiences, even though our approaches are different. So the work so far for us has been primarily behind the scenes, establishing the structure required to bring about organisational change. And so to that end, we've ensured that the colleges engage proactively with the project from the very beginning, putting staff on the initial consultation group, which has been fantastic to see members of staff who have gone through the train the trainer, really from all sorts of areas in the college, from HR, business support, teaching and learning, curriculum. And they've all been really proactive and being brought into that conversation and been able to throw ideas together, which has been really exciting to see. And we've also utilised 3 places on the bespoke PG cert in trauma and mental health for adolescents. So that's been really exciting too. The project was introduced to the college's safeguarding committee in May 21, this just gone, and the training plans have been incorporated from there. So, for instance, I think it's next week on the 6th of October, we're training our first cohort, which is, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So next slide, please, Matthew. Lovely. Okay, awareness raising has been the first sort of prong of what we have been doing as a college. CG Cares, that's been a new initiative, or a new awareness initiative that's been launched throughout every one of our campuses through September. So put up banners on each campus of welcome learners and staff back with the words CG Cares or Colleague Gwent Cares. And what we really wanted to do was for that not to just be a sound bite and not just something, a few words on a banner, but something which really gets embedded into our college culture, the way we look at each other and the way we are with students. Simultaneously, an article was run on our Colleague Gwent staff page, and recognising that the awareness training needs to be an ongoing and continuous cycle, raising awareness all the time, not just over the next 2 years cycle, but all the time, continuously raising awareness about how we care for each other and about how we can be trauma informed. And I know Sean's been really grateful for Tim Sims from the NHS supporting with strategies to ensure our sustainability and the embedding of the project. So on to training. The College Gwent bid to become a trailblazing college focused on the importance of the whole organisation becoming trauma and ACE informed, so that whoever a learner, visitor or member of staff spoke to, they would have the same welcoming and empathetic experience, that everybody's sort of brought into the conversation together. The planned impact of the training is that we become an institution of kind campuses, staffed by fully trained, trauma-informed frontline staff who are supported by an extended staff team who are trauma and ACE champions and aware, and that everybody's got the tools to initially support staff and learners in distress, but are also equally clear on how to and who to refer people to. There's over 1,000 staff at College Gwent, and we really quickly realised that the initial training plan, which was to really blast a load of our staff through sort of 600 at a time, was not going to be the way we were going to do this. So we had to take a breath and a step back and revise with our CG Trace group. So the cohorts of staff who will be trained over the next 2-year cycle have been divided into those first 2 streams there, with teaching staff, directors, pastoral support, wellbeing teams, ALN support, classroom techs, and reception teams all being targeted during this first 2-year cycle. And then, as you look at stream 3, marketing, HR, external engagement, they're all being trained at different levels and bespoke to the task that they are a part of in the college. And running parallel to that, to the training plan, is a review of all of our policies, just as Lizzie and Sean said, that it's to embed this properly into the life of our college, into the individual lives of the people who we rub shoulders with every single day at work and in college and in class. It's really to put it into our policies and our procedures. The policy review is in the very early stages at the moment, but we're hoping to kick it off with a joint workshop with Welsh Government, College Cambria and College Gwent, designing a proposal for this process to take back to college leaders. That will encompass our safeguarding policies, our disciplinary policies, recruitment, professional codes of conduct, so that everything is covered. I know, Sean, if you could just go to the next slide, Matthew. I know that Sean wanted to get across that as a head of learner services, the qualitative impacts are the ones that primarily motivate her: confidence in ability, improve personal relationships, and all those things you see on the slide there, knowing who to go to and where to seek advice, but also that there are quantitative impacts that we'd like to aspire to as well, like better retention, as each individual learner's needs are recognised and that they're listened to and supported, higher enrolments because of positive reputation and impact of the CG Cares campaign, better academic outcomes for our learners because they're secure in the support of their college and their peers, and they know how to flourish in this environment, and then improve staff retention, employability, satisfaction, because who doesn't and who wouldn't want to be a part of an organisation that really does care for each other, that it isn't a soundbite, but we've raised the level of sort of well-being everywhere we go, and getting that buy-in slowly, but making sure that we do it properly is really important to us all. So thanks so much for having the opportunity to talk to you about this. We're so excited about the trace informed practice. It's just gonna, I think it's something we can really work together with as a community, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know each other as we do that too, and learning from each other. So anyway, thanks for your time, everybody. Thanks, Joe.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Colin. I'm loving all this excitement that's coming through in the in the presentations. I thought you'd be speaking from the heart, as I said, but it's great to hear how passionate you all are about this work, and how that's going to be taken forward and is being taken forward. So I think we're going to go straight now to the Q&A session, because we are nearing the end of our time. So I'm hoping that those who are listed here are ready and raring for any questions that might come in. So I think whilst I'm just waiting, if you put your hand up if you'd like to ask a question, whilst I'm just waiting to see if anyone does come in with one, I think Sean, you were going to raise a question perhaps to Ian from Estin.
Hi. Yeah, so I was just, around standardization and kind of frameworks and things like that. I did just want to sort of check, will that become part of like inspection frameworks and that sort of thing, as, you know, having trauma-informed approaches in the framework?
Okay, thanks for that, Sean. And again, share the excitement this afternoon in terms of being here and listening to the developments in terms of trauma-informed practice. And in terms of, from an Estin point of view, I think it's already very much on our radar, even within the current framework. And couple of things that Matthew referred to earlier, if you haven't looked at them already, it's worth having a look at the thematic study that we did in primary and secondary, because Welsh Government asked us to look at the impact of the ACE support hub in primary and secondary. And that particular thematic on knowing your children, supporting pupils with adverse childhood experiences is well worth a look, because I think there are some messages there which will be very familiar to you. In terms of the way in which we'll look at it, and we already look at it, interestingly, all the college presenters, I don't know whether you rehearsed it, I suspect not, but you all use the same word. And you all used the impact word, and for us that's where it's built in from our point of view into the framework, because rather than looking at it from the policies and procedures point of view, we will look at it as we've always looked at it from an impact point of view. So we'll look particularly in terms of inspection area 2, in terms of well-being. So issues about resilience, some of those case studies that came through were about the impact on learners' resilience because of the support that they'd had from the college. Ironically, I'm not at home at the moment. I'm in Coleg Sir. I'm on a visit, so it was quite interesting to see the 2 videos that were there. I'm in that very building where those 2 learners were filmed. So, from a point of view of the other document that Matthew mentioned, the thematic that I had the privilege of leading last year in terms of mental health and emotional well-being, you'll notice that we'd brought ACEs into that quite significantly as well, and recognised that it's work in progress within the sector. What I would encourage you to do is just put into your search engine or go on our website and look at, either just search for trauma or search for ACEs, and you'll see case studies, for example, that have come up from some of the other sectors about trauma-informed practice. And when you look at the thematic that we published for post-16, you'll see within there it recognised the work that's been done on the hub. All our inspectors have recently undergone trauma-informed awareness training as well, so it's something which all the inspectors, when we do resume core inspections from spring next year, it will be an area that we're looking at. You'll see when we do tweak the framework, you'll see that we are strengthening, or we are intending strengthening some of the sections on vulnerable and disadvantaged learners and learners requiring additional support. So that's where you'll see it start to come through, and hopefully what we'll see are some examples of really effective practice which we can then highlight as case studies on our website as well and in our publications. So hopefully that answers, it gives you some idea, Sean, in terms of the way in which we're likely to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. That was a very comprehensive response, and I think we're looking forward to working with you as we move forward to look at what those measures of success might be with our evaluator Tim, and to think about how we can work with you to recognise and understand what's already in your frameworks, as I say, and other frameworks more widely that colleges will be looking to meet criteria for. So I think, Maxine, you mentioned mental health projects a few times as well. So there's more than just this going on, isn't there? How do you get the sense, Maxine, of how this contributes to some of the other things that you are already working towards? Do you see this as a way of kind of achieving more in some of the other, not necessarily inspections, but some of the things you have to report to?
Absolutely, Joanne. And I think, you know, as I hopefully brought across in the presentation there, is that, you know, and I think you noted in the chat there as well about it, is, you know, through your assessment, being fully aware of what you're doing already. It's certainly integrated into all of the safeguarding practice. And it's certainly integrated in terms of all of the sort of support hubs and things that you provide. So it is just very much being aware of that and making sure that you are being reflective in the practice. And I think once we fully understand it and we become passionate about it, as we've heard today from Lizzie and the team, and from Carl and so on, that, you know, it really just becomes a naturally flowing process that we think about. And it's there when we actually look at what we're doing for the requirements of our safeguarding boards, when we look at what we are doing in terms of reviewing our policies, our transition arrangements, our parental contacts. It is just naturally there. But it's that actual sort of just recognition that it is there, and it's not a bolt-on, it's just integral. And I myself this morning was chairing disciplinary panels, and you are very much it's just informing your practice the whole way through.
Thank you, Maxine. We're short of time, so I'm going to just pose one quick question to Lizzie, then one quick question to Carl before I close. So Lizzie, one of the things that you mentioned was that you've taken a slightly different approach to colleagues in Coleg Gwent. So what do you think is and I'll ask the same question to Carl, what do you think is the main benefit of doing the approach your way?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's good that we take a different approach so that everybody here, the other colleges, can learn from that. For me, I think what I needed was I felt I needed to have, if you like, a trauma-informed army around me to be able to really push this forwards. And I needed the dedication. So I would say that's the number one thing, that I have a group of people. I'm part of a group of people who are strong, who are passionate, who believe in this stuff and have the knowledge behind them to take it forward. I think I'd have struggled getting in key people from other areas as the college and having the same amount of dedication. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lizzie. And the same question to Carl. What do you think is the main benefit for you of doing it your way?
I think it's almost exactly the same answer, but in a sort of a different way. What we felt, and I know that when I discussed this with Sean sort of at length about where do we get the group from, where do we draw the group from, we just felt like if we were to offer that out and talk immediately about the time that they'll have to spend doing this, the implications on their having to train others in that those who were passionate about the subject and those who really wanted to see cultural change would come forward and volunteer their time. So it's actually almost exactly the same answer as Lizzie, but just going in through a different direction. It's about having that commitment and also the breadth of experience from all the different departments that everybody has to at some point deal with colleagues or learners who are suffering re-traumatization or have got things they need to work through or are traumatized or have ACEs. And wherever you are in whatever part of the college, we wanted that to be trauma-informed.
Brilliant, thank you. I've got so many more questions, but I'm not going to prolong this, as I know everyone's very busy and needs to get back to your day jobs. But it just remains for me to say thank you to everyone, to Matthew for all the effort in putting this webinar together, and to all colleagues who have joined us today and given up their time to speak and share your experiences. I think that the big takeaways for me certainly is that, you know, this approach is based on working in collaboration to co-produce resources that work for learners and for colleges, and it wouldn't have happened without the support and enthusiasm, increased enthusiasm, if I can say it, of those who've joined us today, and all of your colleagues and others who have been involved in this work. I think we've heard very clearly from Maxine that this is not about building onto, it's about building into, looking at what's existing, what's good. Most colleges, all colleges will have good things that you're already doing that you might not have thought about as being a contribution to this agenda, but actually, you know, it'd be difficult to see how you haven't got a huge platform already from all the other work that other parts of Welsh Government or other organisations are already doing with you. So I would, you know, really take that message that this isn't going to be a huge burden, because you've already started, even though you might not have realised that. And then secondly, I think there is this, coming from both of our trailblazers, this real sense of once you get the message out and once it's communicated in the right way, you will find those people who will lead this for you. You will find people who are passionate and want to take this work forward, because actually, you know, this is part of everything, isn't it? It's about ensuring that learners have the best experience in college, but also about how the college can also seek to kind of retain students, to look at their futures and improve their futures, but also the well-being of staff and others working within it. So thank you both for bringing such a personal approach to our webinar today. So any further questions, please do, if you can, leave them in the chat. If not, please message us at the ACE Support Hub, and we'll be happy to put any questions to our panel outside of the meeting. It just remains for me to say, as I say, thank you so much to everyone for joining us. I've been really inspired by what I heard this afternoon. I hope you are too, and I hope we now see this being taken out across all colleges across Wales in further education. So thanks all, and take care, and we'll see you next time. Thanks very much.